Hi everyone, it's Hannah here and it's our Q&A Monday. So this Monday is very unfortunate. There are various technical issues. This is actually the fourth time I have to film this. So I hope it's basically recorded video and I hope this one will have a picture of me as well as the sound so everyone can get the information so you can really get my knowledge come through. Okay, so anyway, today's topic is about tax penalty and what you can do when things do go wrong. So first of all, basically, what is the tax penalty? Actually, I there's a quote I really like. It's called "A fine is a tax when doing wrong, and the tax is a fine of doing well." So basically, we all working really hard and earn money, and when we make a profit in my business, and then the taxman has to take a cut, unfortunately. So, of course, everyone has to pay the fair share of tax. But then, if you do something wrong, then you have to pay the fine. That's basically unnecessary. So today we talk about when and how the tax authority will impose a fine, and if you do receive a fine, and what you can do about it. There are some circumstances where you can negotiate the best outcome or even ask them to cancel the penalty. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Previously, we talked about the tax returns. Say if you submit the tax return late, you miss the deadline, then you do have a penalty. And if you are more than 3 months late, then you might have a daily penalty that is £10 a day. So we really don't want to do things like we really don't want to miss the deadline. We try our best to get everything on time, pay the right amount of tax at the right time. Basically for the fine, of course, if you miss a deadline, the government, the tax authority, HMRC will issue the penalty and depends on how late your tax return is submitted. And even if you paid late, then you also, again, you have a penalty. And some other circumstances where you made a mistakes on the tax return or on the VAT return, then there might be a penalty as well. And the amount of penalty, HMRC, they will consider based on the potential loss of revenue, or basically that's how much tax you actually owe to them. So if you own them, if you're supposed to pay them £5,000 in tax that year, but then you submitted the wrong tax return and you only declared that you have £4,000 tax outstanding, then that £1,000 is a potential loss of revenue, and they will charge a percentage of that £1,000, and also the percentage will be determined by your behavior and your intention. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So first of all, if you do miss a deadline, of course you do. If that's really something you miss it and you cannot negotiate about it, then you just pay it. But there are some scenarios like it's actually one of the most recent cases in my client. She had to file her tax return late because one of her family member was critically ill at that time. So she could have gathered all the information and give them to us before the deadline and to submit on time. But then because the issue with her family member, then she had to put all the attention to that family member. So that's sort of a scenario that is really out of our control. Even though I know that client, she normally taken reasonable care. She's the kind of person, everything is not. She didn't want to make it late, and she has uh, sort of always trying to gather information, send it to us at appropriate time. But just that thing happened. She couldn't do that on time. But then we've written to HMRC. So how the system work actually is if HMRC system detected that you miss a deadline, then automatically the penalty will be issued. But then because that's sort of issued by default, then they obviously didn't know what's the reason why you are late. But if that's the case, and if you do have a reasonable excuse like that, then you can write back to them and they appeal the penalty and really explain the situation. And if you do have any supporting evidence, that's even better. That will maximize the chance. And when they accept your reason, then they will cancel the penalty. Okay, so basically, if you have a reasonable excuse, something that is out of your control, you can write back to them and appeal the penalty. So, but then here there are some common mistakes people make. Reasonable excuse is it's not everything, you know. Not every excuse are reasonable. There are some mistakes people make. Things like I'm too busy. So basically, that is not a reasonable excuse because if you are busy, then you could have asked accountant, ask someone to help you out to make sure it's submitted on time. Or if you think that's too complicated, then again, that is not acceptable because there are loads of experts out there and tax authority give you 9 months time to prepare for the tax return. There's no reason why you cannot find someone that is appropriate for you and submit it on time. And there's some other things like the accountant didn't submit on time. Again, even if you work with accountant, the primary responsibility is still yours. Then you are the person, make sure you chase up your accountant. Or if that accountant didn't respond, then you find another one and make sure that's submitted on time. So you still bear the primary responsibility. And some people, I'm too busy, it's too complicated, the accountant didn't submit on time, or any of these reasons that you could have prevented uh, by finding someone else to help you out, then that's probably not something HMRC would accept. But there are reasons, there are some excuses that HMRC will accept. Things like if you yourself is critically ill, then of course you cannot do the tax return when you're ill. Or if you're self-employed and your business records has been destroyed by the accident, then that's reasonable. You cannot complete the tax return without these records. And other scenario like because for everyone to submit a tax return, you need to have a 10 digits unique taxpayer reference number. That has to be issued first in order to submit a tax return. But if that's not even being issued, that's being issued late, then that's not your fault. Then again, you can that's reasonable that you submit late. So really distinguish what is reasonable, that what is not. It's really look at if that's a sort of circumstances that it's really out of your control. You could have done it on time. If that didn't happen, then HMRC would accept it. Okay, so that's when you miss a deadline. But what if you made a mistake? So, well, it's really the reason why people submit the wrong tax return. The reason can be different. There might be just a careless error, or there might be someone is deliberately submitted the wrong tax return. So it really depends on your intention and your behavior. So, like I mentioned earlier on, if someone is falling short on their tax liability, what will happen? So if that's something like you are careless, even though you have reviewed your tax return, you have taken reasonable care, but that's some sort of careless error. you made a mistake carelessly, then what will happen? Well, HMRC, perhaps they will still consider your behavior as well, but they might still issue the penalty that's up to, if that's careless, that's up to 30% of your tax outstanding. So in that scenario, if your tax falling short, that is £1,000, then HMRC will issue the penalty up to £300. But in this case, if you are like sort of a more proactive, and if you find something wrong before they find out, and you tell them, then they will consider that as well when they determine your penalty. So really tell them, even if they didn't find out, tell them any issues they have to be aware of, and also help them to understand your scenario, understand your situation, why this can go wrong. Also give them access to records to help them to investigate and how you can put it right, and really show your intention that you want to put it right and you want to pay back any tax that is outstanding. So in this case, HMRC will consider mitigate your penalty or even just remove the penalty completely. So really show your intention. I think vast majority of the taxpayer will be, if you do make a mistake, will be this level, because most of us, we don't want to be caught in any sort of trouble. We don't want to deliberately submitting the wrong tax return. Everyone has been doing their best and make sure we pay the right amount of tax at the right time, but there are at times we do make mistakes. So if that do happen, don't stress out, but just try to negotiate the best outcome. And these three principles: by telling, helping, and giving. So telling them the truth, telling them anything they need to be aware of, or tell them what went wrong, even if they didn't find out, and help them to understand your situation, the reason why it went wrong, and giving them access. Just be proactive, giving them access to information to help them to investigate. So in this case, you can help yourself reduce your financial burden. But there are some other scenario, like if you are deliberately submitting the wrong tax return, then in that case, the tax authority can issue up to 70% of whatever tax is outstanding. So in that case, that can be £700 as a penalty. And if you have done something seriously wrong, that might consider as not just a deliberate but concealed, then in that case, it can go really seriously. The penalty can go as much as 100% of whatever tax is outstanding. And in some very rare scenario, but it did happen before, if the taxpayer has done something seriously wrong, that person might be asked to the police station for the interview. So obviously no one wants to be in that situation. So that things can happen, although it's very rare. But I presume majority of the people, when they have made a mistake, they will fall into like careless, because we all want to avoid this trouble. So if that didn't happen, really remember the three principles: telling, helping, and giving. Okay, so basically we've been through the late filing penalty and how we can appeal against them, and the penalty structure when the tax return is wrong, and how we can negotiate the best outcome by these three principles. So I hope you find this useful. And of course, if you do have any specific questions related to this topic, please be free to let me know. or if you have any questions at all related to tax, and let me know as well. So this video will be uploaded on both YouTube as well as Facebook. So whatever channel you're on, please be free to connect me. As said, we do have a private Facebook group. It's called Tax Deductible Lifestyle Tribe. So where I will share more in-depth information, and we have our own additional Q&A every Wednesday. I will answer more questions, as well as you can get access to our panel of experts. Like if you need a financial advisor, or if you are running a business and you need someone help you with a business, help you to earn more money, or someone to help you with the cash flow. So you can find the experts from there. Okay, so again, I hope you find this useful, and any questions or any feedback at all, please be free to let me know. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Bye now.